Hello everybody and welcome back to Screen Stars. And yes, the time has come. It's that time of year again. It's a little bit late, but we can forgive it. It's finally here. Game of Thrones Season 7 Episode 1, DragonStone. Please be aware there will be spoilers here. It's very difficult to talk about these episodes without giving spoilers, otherwise you've nothing to talk about. So if you haven't seen the episode, I do suggest you go and watch it first. I'm not going to massively spoil things, but I will be revealing certain plot points within this episode. So, huge Game of Thrones fan. I came to it a bit late. I started just after season 3, borrowed my mum's box sets, caught up, and then I was hooked. And I've been an avid fan ever since. Love the show. And what a great start to a series. I think it seems to have fallen into a pattern now, this show, where the first couple, 2 or 3, sometimes 4 episodes of the season, it's like laying the chess pieces, and then boom, it lets it go for the final 4 or 5 episodes of the seasons. And this episode is no different. I think the problem this show has now, there's that many pawns, or there's that many pieces on the chessboard, that they don't have time in each episode to devote to each character, so you're kind of flitting about, and you kind of do feel like you want a little bit more from each character, a little bit more of the story, but they only give you little snippets. And if you've overanalyzed it, it probably is a little bit annoying, but it works. I'm used to it now. It's what I expect from this show. They give you little snippets, and then all the pieces fit together later in the season, and all the plans that have been put into place throughout come to fruition. Usually, until they give us the usual Game of Thrones curveballs, which they tend to do. So what do we get with this episode? Well, it starts off at the beginning, and you must forgive me, I'm not really in Game of Thrones names mode again yet. There's that many different characters and names. I might get some mixed up. I'll try my best, but I've got my cast list up here so that I hopefully can remember it. So what have we got? Right, at the beginning we've got Arya Stark. She carries on from where she left off at the end of last season, where she's killed the Freys. And at the beginning, it's the Frey like making the speech, and initially you kind of think, oh, he died, but you kind of figure out what's going on fairly quickly there, and it's actually Arya, and she's brought all the Freys, all the family, for a celebration, poisons all the wine, finishes that job, moves on. It was a nice little opening, I think, to the series, and then boom, we get that wonderful music, and all is right with the world again when you get the intro, the credits. And then after that, we kind of then we get the bits where we've got Jon Snow in the north. He's settling down, he's giving his orders, he's trying to prepare everybody for the White Walkers, laying down the orders. We've got to find Dragonstone. Sophie Turner, so Sansa, she kind of questions his authority a little bit, which I think could develop into something later on. He kind of knocks her back and says, no, these are my orders, that's it, I'm the king, sort of thing. So they're all setting up, they know what's coming, they're just trying to put a plan in action of how they're going to defend the north. Then he gets a raven from King's Landing basically saying, come and bend the knee to me, the queen, or you've had it. So there's that going to bubble away, as we all know. Then we have Cersei in King's Landing. Bit of an awkward scene between her and Jaime. And they're trying to figure out what their next plan's going to be, because they've got enemies everywhere. Yeah, you're damn right you have. And then she tries to make a deal with the Iron Islands. And he's a right git. He's taken over from all the hated characters, and he's the guy from the Iron Islands. That's it. Euron Greyjoy from the Iron Islands. He's like he's going to be the one that we all want to die very quickly. I'm fairly sure of that, because he's a bit of a git. But he tries to make a deal. She turns him down initially, and then they're a bit like, okay, we'll see, we'll give you a chance. And he says, I'm gonna bring you back a gift, so you'll take me seriously. And he buggers off, and we'll see him later, I'm sure. Then we've got Clegane and his crew doing their bit. They are travelling about with the Lords of Fire, or whatever you want to call them. But he's just such a wonderful character. I don't mind him when he's on screen at all. It doesn't really develop so much here, this. But it is going to be heading somewhere. Then we've got Bran, he turns up at the wall and they let him in. So he's through on the other side of the wall now. And then, right at the end, obviously, we get Daenerys landing at Dragonstone and setting up shop there, if you like. I mean, the episode ends with her saying, let's get to work. And also in there we have, again, I've got to check the cast list because I'm just not in Game of Thrones mode yet still. Samuel, who's he's at the big library place, and he's trying to help Jon by finding out information on the White Walkers and how they can fight them and stuff. And he discovers, I mean, it's one of my favourite scenes when he's there, because he's just got this monotonous routine of cleaning crap up and feeding the elderly and clearing books away. It looks really monotonous, but he does discover some information for Jon, that there's a massive pile of dragonglass, at Dragonstone, which is what they can make weapons from to fight the White Walkers. So that is probably what is going to get him, Jon Snow, in contact with Daenerys, because that's where she is. So that will likely lead to some kind of union between the two, because he'll probably get in touch with her down there and say, you know, we need to get some of this dragonglass, and you're setting on a pile of it. So it was a nice episode. It was nothing overly exciting. There wasn't any major shocks or surprises here. No new characters, really. Nothing overly surprising. But the usual kind of thing that you get in the early seasons of these Game of Thrones. Just they're laying the foundations of the story, but an excellently made episode, and it preps us nicely for this shorter season, because there's only 7 episodes this time, so I expect things to take off a bit quicker this time. My only real criticism that I can put to this first episode was the cameo from Ed Sheeran. It just seemed prized in there. There's a scene where Ayers goes to this campfire with these soldiers, and Ed Sheeran's singing with them, and they offer us some food and they're chatting for a bit, and it just felt like they just created that scene for him to be in it, and it didn't really need to be there. It was a bit of an odd setup. It did bother you amazingly, but you just watched it and just thought, there's no need for that. It doesn't need to be in here at all. So that was a bit of an odd setup, but you know, it is what it is, I suppose. It doesn't ruin the episode or anything, just a bit odd. But yeah, great start to the season. Roll on episode 2. Really looking forward to this. I really can't wait for more of Game of Thrones.